right, today on this episode of Growth Science, we're lucky enough to have Edson Olds, Chief Operating Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of ISEP Study Abroad. Welcome, Edson. We're excited to have you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Ben. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So to jump in here, could you just start us off by telling us a little bit about your background and ISEP?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's start with ISEP. ISEP Study Abroad is, as it sounds, we are a provider of study abroad programs for college students, university students around the world. Really, we are a membership organization. So we've got roughly, let's call it 350 universities around the world that are members of ISEP. Roughly half of them are in the United States and the other half are spread across 50, 55 countries, something like that. So yes, we are facilitating study abroad programs for their students, and we're sending students from the US to international universities. We're bringing students from international universities into the United States, and also facilitating mobility for international students to other international universities. So we've been around for about 40 years. We're a nonprofit, small business, but we're supporting close to 3,000 students a year, across these universities. So it's been a great place. As far as me and my background, I started off in marketing, grew up in ad agencies, and quickly got into the education space, which I have found to be just incredibly gratifying. So I've been involved in big businesses, with smaller companies in the K through 12 space. That's where you and I work together at K-12. And now I'm in higher education. So it's been a great ride for me, great joy. And I think over the course of my career, I've expanded, deeper and deeper into marketing, and beyond that now into operations and IT and other places that are keeping me challenged, which is always good.
Terrific, terrific. One of the things that you mentioned when we were talking earlier was you were brought into ISEP as Chief Marketing Officer, but you recognize there's a need just to sort of bring overall discipline. What did that look like? How are you able to actually take a look at the organization and say, here's what we need to do to have more, discipline around the business and look for opportunities to grow it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in a CMO role, I've always thought that the job is really about revenue and margin and helping companies grow. That's what I've always done in my past, and that's what I'm doing here at ISEP. As a small organization, nonprofit or not, we're limited in our resources. So, for me, I was brought in um, as the organization's first senior marketer at a CMO level. At the time, we were kind of focusing on B2C marketing efforts, but for a variety of reasons, found that that was really not a viable path forward for us. For us, it's really important, and for our business model, it's really critical that we have relationships, deep relationships with the universities where our students are coming from, so that we can ensure that the courses that they're taking when they study abroad with us are going to transfer back and keep them on course to graduate on time. That when their health and safety needs and issues, that we've got deep relationships with the universities where these students are coming from, as well as where they're going to study abroad, so that we can manage those types of situations. So we quickly pivoted after I came on board, or stayed deeply engaged in this membership model, which for us meant we pivoted to a B2B2C, kind of a B2B2C marketing approach and B2B marketing approach. So a lot of what we're doing is helping our universities and the staff at those universities understand the opportunities that we have for their students. We are the largest study abroad network in the industry. As I said, we've got roughly 350 universities. So we like to think that there's not a student out there that we don't have solutions for in this network, no matter what they're studying. That may not be literally true, but it's probably pretty close to true when you look at the universities that are in this network and the vast academic opportunities that they have at their disposal. So for me, starting off in marketing, starting off in helping create this brand and deepen our engagement with our member universities and with our staff, helping them to understand the types of opportunities that we have for their students, was project number one,
Right.
and that's where it started. But it quickly evolved from there into, okay, so now that we're starting to drive more demand for our programs and build more awareness of the types of opportunities that we have within this network, and helping to deepen our engagement, with our university staff members, our members there. Okay, now we've got to convert that demand. So that comes, in our case, that's an admissions department. In my background, it's the same thing that's happened with me in other places. You start with driving demand, then whether it's an e-commerce platform or whether it's a call center. In this case at ISEP, it's an admissions team. You're bringing that demand into a group of people that need to be trained, and they need to understand the programs, and they need to have the tools at their disposal to utilize their time most efficiently, most effectively, and to provide exceptional customer service to the students that are reaching out to us. So we look at the metrics, those retention, conversion metrics throughout the funnel to get those students on board. You take that one step further, right? And as I have in my experience too, now we're involved in, the students are going on these programs with us, so we want to provide an exceptional customer service experience when these students are abroad, because that's critical to retention, that's critical to member satisfaction, which will lead to, right, more students from our members in the semesters to come. So we manage those student experiences, support them when they have needs, reach out to them periodically throughout their programs, survey them at the end of the programs to learn how we can be doing better.
Right.
We utilize that all of that information to inform our marketing, to inform our programs, and enhance our programs. So all of that is part of what I oversee. And you take that even one step further now, most recently for me, which is to get involved in IT, because our system that our students engage with, that our members engage with, is such an important part of their experience with us.
Right.
And as you can imagine, no secrets here, as a small organization, I mean, we're working with a homegrown system,
Right.
That does a great job in what it was designed to do. But as the IT world progresses, and as user experience progress so rapidly, it's a challenge for us. We've got to keep up with that. And we've got to make sure that our students and our members' experiences with our own technology, are meeting acceptable satisfaction levels, or even beating those ideally.
Right.
So for me, yeah, it started off as a CMO experience. It's transitioned into a COO kind of a role, now transitioning into an involvement in leadership of our IT department, because all of that is related to driving growth.
Right.
It's as it's never, there's no magic bullet to driving growth and building a brand. You've got to be doing well in all of these different areas. All of these different touch points
Right.
have to be, on point. So, for me in this small organization, fortunately, I've been able to bring background to, these various areas in my experience, and, doing some good things. It's been a great experience so far.
No, I think that's really interesting. I mean, we go into a lot of companies that are, founder led. They recently received investment and have done very little from a marketing perspective. So, sort of similar to your experience. One of the things that we find is that people often want to, press the gas on tactics before defining the sort of like who we are and who we're serving, which I think could be a mistake. I like the approach that you took, which was defining who you are as an organization, really understanding who you're serving, and then starting to look at like what can we do to drive growth, making sure that we're able to measure it effectively. And then the focus on customer experience is obviously critical. So I think that's a really great approach. And I mean, something I would recommend based on our experience for many organizations, in terms of the right way to address marketing and looking at growth moving forward.
Yeah, I believe that, and wholeheartedly, and that's been my experience too. I mean, I'll give you a more kind of tangible example of something that we've done recently at ISEP that follows that same approach. Uh, one of the area aspects that falls under the marketing umbrella at ISEP is our program development. And this is a bit of an overstatement, but directionally true. As a membership organization over the years, our portfolio of programs has grown, to a point where, you've got these universities saying, hey, listen, we're going to start offering this new summer program. Is that something you'd be willing to offer to your membership? And we tended to say yes to many of those things over an extended period of time. And it grew to a point where we felt that our program portfolio had become a little unwieldy for us to manage. So we took this approach that you just defined, right? And we said, okay, we're going to look at three things. We're going to go into a deep examination here. One is, who is the customer and what are the customer needs? For us, that meant interviewing our membership and getting a real sense of what are today's student needs. And you start to hear things like students are, they're interested in climate change. They're interested in, these areas that when these programs were created 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? Things have evolved. So, we had a lot of language programs, which we still need, but we realize we don't need as many of them, So we took a look by understanding our customer, right? And our customer needs. That was one aspect of the experience. Two was the competitive analysis, right? Who else is offering programs? Who else are our members working with? Our universities working with? What programs are those providers offering? And are we confident that, if we're going to be offering similar programs, that we are competitively positioned?
Right.
And are we confident that we may also be offering some things that are unique within the pool? That was two. Number three was then understanding ourselves, which you said. We need to understand ourselves. We need to understand, as a small organization, our resource, limitations, in terms of, let's make sure we pick and choose activities that we can execute with the people that we have, that the finances that we have within the system that we have. Not that we can't expand beyond that box moving forward, but let's make sure that we come back with something that's going to fit, for now. So ultimately that experience, we started with our portfolio of summer programs. We then extended that to our portfolio of semester-long programs. At the end of the day, we eliminated, let's call it 40% of underperforming programs that were still requiring significant time and resources from our staff to manage. You've got to make sure housing there, you've got to price those programs and all of those things. We ended up launching new programs, some that in highly desirable locations and highly desirable academic fields. We just launched a new program in Florence, Italy, which is arguably popular destination number one for US students. We launched a new program in Dublin, which is an up and coming, has been for quite some time, an up and coming market for business students, especially in the area of technology and entrepreneurship. So it's been great. So, I mean, the result of that coming out of COVID, which was impacted us significantly, to put it mildly, when travel shut down, study abroad shut down. But coming out of that, with this more focused portfolio of programs that was repriced as part of this exercise, we looked at our pricing, we looked at our margin. I mean, we're seeing growth in these programs at the tune of like 40 to 50%.
Wow.
Compared to pre-COVID, which is really exciting for us. It's really exciting. We've become more efficient with our staff because we've reduced the size of the programs that we have to manage by 40%. But at the same time, we've got 40% more students utilizing these programs. So it's really been just a huge success for ISEP. And it goes back to the fundamentals that we discussed and you discussed: understanding the needs of your customer, understanding the competitive environment and where you fit and where you can fit, and then understanding realistically what you as an organization can accomplish. Putting all of those pieces together, and coming out with something like this has been just couldn't be more gratifying.
That's a great story. I love the tangible example. And two things that really stood out for me there was one is that you hear people say, don't be so focused on your competitors. But I think just the way that you talked about is like, you should use them as a learning opportunity. Like you can learn much faster based on the things that they have done. It's not about being like obsessed with them. It's just about learning as fast as you can to understand like where's our opportunities for growth and what things should we not do that they've done, that they've made mistakes. So when people say like, oh, don't be focused on your competitors, I think that's a huge mistake because there's such an opportunity to learn more quickly. If you view it that way, it's definitely a great opportunity for growth. And the other thing that really stood out to me is, like you mentioned, the power of saying no to things is so critical. And so you're hyper focused on the things that you're great at. And that does mean saying no to some things that may be important to some people, or but is required to actually be as efficient and effective in growing your business.
It is very hard to say no to things, especially in a membership organization where you have universities that are paying annual dues to be a part of a membership. So, to actually reach out to a member and say, listen, we're this particular program that you offer that we have been offering to the other members is something that we're going to remove from the portfolio. These are the reasons why. It's nothing personal. It's just that, you know,
Right,
there hasn't been much traction. We've
right,
tried it. In some cases, we said we're going to give it another try and we're going to do a couple things differently with pricing or with the marketing, and we'll see what happens. And that's led to some suspensions, after some efforts, things like that. In some cases, it hasn't. But you're right. It's hard to say no, but you know, it's easy to feel like you may be doing a disservice to the members whose programs are being removed from the portfolio. On the other hand, though, by keeping those low performing programs in the portfolio, an argument can be made that you're doing a disservice to the rest of the membership because it is taking time and our resources away from other activities that could benefit the membership as a whole.
right.
So these are tough decisions to make. And again, especially in a membership environment where relationships, I mean, we've got universities that we've been around for 40 years and we have universities that have been with us from day one.
Right, right,
So you want to support them in every way. You want to say yes, but sometimes you have to step back and say, hold on a minute, this is
right.
this is really not for the greater benefit of the entire membership. So yeah, but you're right. The power of saying that and being more efficient and more focused with what you're doing, especially as a small organization, it's so easy to become a mile wide and an inch deep,
Right.
you know? And if you can just focus a little more in certain areas, the impact, as this experience proved, can really be significant.
That's terrific. That's a great perspective. I mean, and I think I really like what A is the perspective on, yes, you're disappointing someone, but there's also on the flip side, you're serving someone better. I mean, I think going into those discussions with that perspective is great. And then using data to support your decision is obviously critical, to get buy-in on what you're trying to accomplish.
For sure. For sure. And for us, the data has been an important component to what we're doing. It's important to everybody, right? It's a small organization, though. For us, we'd had to look back at data pre-COVID. We'd have to understand, what were the trends that we were seeing in the years prior to COVID. Those trends in study abroad tend to be fairly consistent over time. What I mean is, if you look at it from a US student perspective, it won't surprise anybody outside of the industry to think, well, Italy, Spain,
Right.
France, Germany, I mean, Korea, Australia, these are some of the most popular countries and have been for a long time. So, but we need to look deeper and say, well, we offer multiple options within these countries. Why is it that some of these programs have been more popular than others? In
Right.
some cases, it's been location. right? London versus, other places in the United Kingdom or elsewhere in England. Seoul versus other places in Korea, Sydney and Melbourne versus more rural places in Australia. That wasn't that difficult to see in the data. But
Right.
in other cases, you've got to dig deeper and you've got to understand, you've got to get into some of the satisfaction surveys that we do and understand, the types of experiences that these students offer. We see that a lot. If you flip the switch on that and you look at students that come into the United States, we see that all the time. That who doesn't want to go to California,
Right.
right? To be honest, we have a lot of international students that have never heard of Arkansas,
Right.
you
Right.
know, or Iowa. Everyone wants to go to the coast.
Right. Yeah.
But we have some incredible programs at colleges that, just are not in places that are
Right.
in San Diego or wherever. And it's almost like they work harder. They know that they're not going to be, you know, someone's first choice. So they've created these great, tremendous experiences for international students. And that's true overseas too. So, helping to shepherd these students into these programs that are going to be great fit for them. Sometimes you see this down in the depths of the data when you read the surveys and you start to get the testimonials from the students, and you really start to get personal feel for, well, I was able to do this at this university. I was able to join these clubs. They did these types of things for all of our international students to make us feel welcomed and comfortable and get acclimated and become part of the community, you know. So yeah, I mean, delving into the data, it's always important. For us though, it's a little bit difficult, because of our size and our resources, but it has been a critical step that we've taken to really help us make some sound data-driven decisions that have been impactful.
No, that's a great lesson. That's a great lesson. What, so you've had a variety of different experiences. Is there one thing that you've seen that you think that would keep a company or organization from growing successfully?
Yeah, yeah, it's I'll go back to the mile wide and inch deep example. You know, it takes, I think, strong leadership from the top to create that focus and
Right.
making sure that staff at all levels of the organization understand what the key KPIs are, what the key areas of focus are for the organization,
Mhm.
because it is easy. And I don't want to call it complacency because that's not true or that's not fair, but it is easy to get into the grind,
Right.
right? At every level of the organization, especially at a small organization, it always feels like there's more to do than hours in the day to do them,
Right.
right? Especially in times of crisis, when all attention needs to go to something because we've got a student situation somewhere, there's been an earthquake or there's been political unrest, and we've got to make sure students are safe and cared for and all of those things. So it's easy to kind of get into that grind and lose focus of the bigger picture. And I think, I've seen that. I've seen that in large organizations, but in smaller departments or smaller business lines that I've been a part of. I've certainly seen that in the smaller organizations that I've worked at. It's easy to kind of fall into that trap and look back in a quarter or even 6 months and say, did we really move the needle as much as we
Right.
had intended? So I think, for us at ISEP, that experience that we had in that initiative with the program portfolio was an example where we said, the leadership team said, we can see great impact to this exercise, not only in terms of serving our members better, but in getting this nonprofit in a more financially, sound situation. So then we can invest more in technology, staff, and other things that are going to benefit the membership. So, for us, getting focused on an initiative like that and saying no to other things, you know, when we had to, turned out to be, hugely important. But it is easy. Like you said earlier, it's easy not to say no to those things. It's easy to say, we've been doing these things for a long time, so they must be important.
Right.
Well, sometimes you need to challenge that and say, what
Right.
would happen if we stopped doing that because we're going to do this instead? And I know nobody likes to admit that, but the reality is sometimes you do have to stop doing other things to create time. You
Right.
can't just keep adding to the plate,
Right.
especially at a small organization with limited resources. The plate spills over. So that's what I've seen.
All right, that's great. And I'm sure it was a huge momentum builder for that initiative to be so successful. I mean, I think being successful leads to more success. So it's great to hear that it was such a great outcome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, morale, everything internally, externally, membership is happy and utilizing our programs more, the engagement, it's been able to deepen over this. It's been great on many levels, for sure.
That's terrific. That's terrific. All right, last question, and you can choose. We're in 2024, just the start of it. Do you have any predictions from a marketing perspective or technology perspective, or do you have any recommendations for organizations and companies heading into 2024 to drive growth?
Yeah, boy, I don't know, but it sure looks like this is going to be the year for artificial intelligence to me.
I know,
You know,
right?
I don't even know. I don't even know if I know what that means fully yet, but
Yes,
it feels like that technology is expanding just so quickly, and this is going to be the year where use of it starts to trickle down into mid-sized and smaller businesses. And I feel like at ISEP we better pay attention to that. You
mhm,
know, uh, we've got a homegrown system, that we work with, but we've got users of that system that are accustomed in their daily lives of online experiences that are far different, and evolving so quickly. And I think this year are going to evolve so quickly. For us, I think we're going to be focused on our website this year because, like a lot of travel companies or the United States Park Service,
right,
or in our case, you've got users that are coming in going, let me see what kind of programs you have, right? We've got something we call our program finder that I want to study abroad next summer. I want to go to Europe. I'm studying business. What programs do you have for me? And that whole experience, I mean, if you just look at search,
right,
right? General search, you know, and how that's evolving
right,
quickly, AI, and how Microsoft and Google are starting to utilize AI and experiment with it. That whole search experience in general is going to evolve so quickly, and I think we're going to have to keep up with that. We're going to have to maybe not keep up with it fully, but make sure that the experience that we're providing is going to be satisfactory.
right.
Because again, I mean, that is so important to retention of our members and satisfaction from our members and our students, and keeping our business flowing from year after year. I mean, it's education. As you know, in education marketing, the funnel starts with 0 students every year. Very few students study abroad twice,
Yes,
right? From one semester, one year to another. So, you got to start from scratch every year. And that means healthy relationships and healthy satisfaction levels with our universities, right? So that they keep recommending us. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a year for a lot of us to really begin to understand what AI can mean for us in
right,
mid-sized or small-sized businesses. I use an example in search and on the marketing side. I mean, there's other examples. We've talked earlier today about how to utilize staff more efficiently and how to make sound data-driven decisions. We too, like most or any business, have a pretty robust data set,
right.
that we can get a lot more out of potentially, as this technology improves and gives us the ability to do that. So I mean, yeah, I mean, for me, that's what I'm thinking about as we enter 2024. It's the same principles of how can we provide a better experience on the user side with the marketing hat on and with the operations hat on. How can we make better utilization of our data and our information to make more sound decisions for our staff, and our finances? So it's all the same general things that I think about. I just feel like technology, especially with AI, this is going to be the year where maybe it's going to be transformational,
Right.
for small businesses.
No, I
And
think it's Yeah, it's a really interesting perspective because I think about the internet and who were the winners and losers out of that. And so it's like how many restaurants, didn't survive because they didn't do a good enough job with their approach to digital or the internet. And it's the same thing going to happen here. So I think that's a great perspective for like you said, smaller and medium-sized businesses to make sure they're at least understanding what changes are happening so they don't get left behind and they're able to. And I mean, hopefully, I mean, I think there's lots of stories out there how small businesses use the internet to actually grow their business. And maybe there's, to your point, a similar opportunity around AI as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. We'll see, but I'm sure it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not if, right?
Right.
So it's coming. But
Well,
it's always something to keep us engaged, in marketing and exciting and keep us learning about new things and new opportunities. So that's what keeps it interesting and exciting.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you'll be. I thought it was kind of funny. I asked Chat GPT what's its 2024 marketing predictions, and it was like increased use of AI. So I don't know if that's like a Skynet thing. It's just trying to promote itself, but no, I think AI is going to be significant in the coming year. So I appreciate
We
it.
we asked an AI tool why universities should use ISEP as their study abroad provider.
Yeah,
And the 600-word essay that it produced in 90 seconds with references from about 15 different sources was pretty darn impressive.
I know it.
So, and in marketing too. I mean, now you're seeing these examples of people asking AI to generate images
Right.
of, show me an image of a student, who's hiking in the Alps, the Swiss mountains, the Swiss Alps, with a backpack on, and boom, seconds later, you've got
Right.
imagery that you could conceivably use in marketing. So, you know, I know it's scary on one hand, but it's also, just really powerful. So how we can utilize this to the best of our, you know, abilities responsibly, all of us as leaders are going to have to be focused on that this
Yeah.
year. I really believe 2024 is going to be the year for this.
Very cool. Very cool. No, I appreciate your perspective. Well, Ed, so this was great stuff. I really appreciate your time today. It was great talking to you, and I'm excited for 2024 for you and ISEP, and we'll see what changes come in place over the next year.
Absolutely. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, Ben. It's always great talking to you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.